Alright, welcome back to The Hungry Lamb. Oh, very... Oh my god. Dark visual novel about human trafficking and cannibalism and whatnot. And well, let me switch to that. I left it yesterday, right at the start of the side chapter for Muncie. So we pretty much have a break in the story. I just wanted to leave it on a more positive note. All things considered, we know that her dad is probably dead. And that's gonna have to happen anytime soon. So I was like, okay, before it gets dark, after that one moment of lightheartedness, I wanted to go well, take a break, and here we are. So yeah, let's get started. Let's get right into this and see where the story goes from here, I guess. Dad and I walked along the mountain path, leaving 2 sets of footprints, one large and one small, marking our journey on the trail. I was constantly scarred on our way back home. Scarred? Scared. Oops. We kept seeing people walking in the opposite direction. Sometimes it was just one person, and sometimes it was a bunch of people gathered together. Their clothes were tattered and they looked thin. It seemed like they hadn't bathed in a long time, and they had an unpleasant sour smell. They appeared famished. They kept staring when they saw us. I couldn't tell if they were looking at the basket in Dad's hand or at me.
爹爹，这些人都是做什么的？
Nothing. After avoiding them by a good distance, I nervously asked Dad.
他们都是逃荒的人，饿坏了，惦记着咱们的食物。
They brought people for food. You can't be sure about that, but yeah. Probably.
回家之前，无论何时你都不能乱跑，要一直在我身边啊！
Wander off in what way? You must not. Ah, yeah, okay. You must not wander off. Okay. Dad replied gravely and reminded me. I nodded and held Dad's hand tightly. I could sort of guess what that meant. Sorry, I'm getting text messages and I'm just reading through them. Those people were starving and they needed money to buy food. If they kidnapped me, they would definitely sell me for food. Or eat you themselves. After the long and frightening journey, Dad and I arrived home in the evening. As soon as we got home, Mom and my younger brother came to greet us.
爹爹，回来了，带了多少粮？
The brother looks more famished than the mother. Not gonna lie, makes me wonder. Normally, They show the mother being more famished than the kids because she gives them all their food. How much food did we bring back? Well, a basketful and that's it.
1根苞米棒子，2颗白菜，3斗米。
3 buckets of rice. I don't see any buckets. What kind of buckets we talking about? No.
不是，看戏的人给不了那么多，只给了1根苞米棒子，其他东西都是买木箱子换的。
哦，卖了就卖了吧，等灾年熬回去，我们再去找找，兴许能买回来。
How are you gonna survive on 3 buckets, whatever that is, however much that is, of rice, 2 cabbages, 1 ear? Kernel? No, kernel are the singular ones. I think ear, right? Corn cobs. And what was it? Yeah, that's it. I have no idea, of course, how long this year is gonna go on for, but you then need money to buy seed for the next year. So, if you don't have that, you can't plant anything, meaning you will be stuck in a perpetual circle of not being able to plant anything, eat anything, and, well, earn money from it. So, yeah, unless, of course, somebody just gives out the seed you need for the next year.
你不在的时候，我整了整家里的东西，找到了之前说的那镯子，还有几件衣服。
Sorry, just answering something. Alright, let's go. Okay. Oh yeah, the bracelet he wanted to sell off, I forgot.
再过几天，你再去镇子一趟，把这些都当掉吧。
Let's do that, hopefully.
行。
Three days later, Dad went to the neighboring town again. This time, I didn't follow him. Dad pawned Mom's bracelet and sold all kinds of things from our home for some food. This time, Dad and Mom got into an argument after he got back. Mom didn't believe that the bracelet could only sell for 600 copper coins. She complained that Dad didn't know how to do business and was tricked by others. Probably, but also who would want a bracelet at this time? Where food is more of importance than, well, jewelry, but okay, whatever. Dad said he did his best to bargain and was only able to sell it for that price after visiting many places. Mom also asked if Dad could go into town and claim some relief food. She once heard from the neighbors who fled that the court would distribute relief food in times of disaster. Dad then said that those were all a bunch of nonsense, or else the neighbors wouldn't have fled. True. In times of disaster, commoners could only see the tax officials who regularly came to collect taxes, never the people who handed out relief. Even if this relief were really to come from above, it would either be eaten up layer by layer, or end up in the hands of the officials' relatives and acquaintances. In the eyes of the emperor, the high-ranking officials, they were concerned with the vast expanse of the 9 provinces, but once decrees were issued, they turned a blind eye. As for the low-ranking officials, they only wished for the calamity to drag on, the longer the better. Come a disaster, they could climb the ranks. Come a disaster, they could amass fortunes. That's why, whenever a great disaster struck, neither the emperor suffered, nor the major officials, nor the minor bureaucrats. Instead, it was countless commoners who bore the brunt of it. I didn't understand any of this. However, I knew that Dad was definitely different than before. Last year, when the disaster had just struck, the uncle from the neighbor's house was still around, and Dad used to chat with the neighbors often. The uncle from the neighbor's house would complain about the court's additional tax demands, angrily cursing the corrupt officials and the incompetence of the emperor. At that time, Dad would still speak up for the court, saying that the Ming were fighting against the eastern invaders and the commoners should be sympathetic and share the country's hardship. Now, perhaps because we'd been sympathetic for too long, we ourselves were starving to death. He wouldn't say such things anymore. One night, I had a dream. I dreamt about Grandma. Grandma, dressed in grey clothes and grey shoes, was looking at us from afar while standing in the mist. Her gaze was fixed upon us while she smiled, but she didn't utter a word. I called out to Grandma, but she suddenly vanished, her figure concealed within the mist. Thunk, thunk. The dream ended, and I woke up. As I lay in bed, I suddenly heard the sound of shoveling dirt. Oh, her brother? At first, I thought I heard it wrong. So I turned around and tried to sleep some more, hoping that I could meet Grandma again in my dream. The sound of shoveling dirt became even clearer. That was when I knew I wasn't hallucinating. Rubbing my bleary eyes, I first lifted my little brother's legs off my stomach, then sat up in bed and headed toward my parents' bed.
爹爹，娘，快醒醒！
I nudged Dad and Mom with my hand.
什么事儿啊？
Dad was nudged by me and he slowly opened his eyes, looking a bit
有
confused.
铲土的声音，好像是后院传来的。
Did we bury some food? I slowly said to Dad while pointing toward the backyard through the window. Sorry, answering texts. I know. I'll be with you really shortly. Oh my god, stop autocorrecting. There. Okay. After hearing what I said, Dad first squinted his eyes and tilted his head to listen. Then his pupils gradually widened and his body began to tremble. Dad didn't say a word. He suddenly pulled open the door latch, grabbed the hoe and dashed out the door. I followed him out of the door and saw two people with shovels hastily escaping. Dad, holding the hoe, cursed loudly in their direction. He was so angry that he tried to chase after the two, but the hoe in hand was so heavy that they seemed to vanish into thin air before he could catch them. Dad came back, panting heavily, carrying the hole. The two were gone, leaving behind a hole in the ground. It was the hole Grandma was in. She hadn't been completely dug out by them, but I stole a glance and saw that Grandma's clothes were already visible in that hole.
怎么了？那么大的动静啊！
After Dad returned, Mom also ran out of the house looking scared.
有俩瓜怂，拿铲子踩跑咱们后院的地。
他们想挖什么？
还能是什么？肯定是娘留的传家宝啊！
Dad said in rage, but from what I could tell, I felt that perhaps it wasn't the family heirloom they were trying to dig up. The spot those two were digging was that where Grandma was buried. Grandma's clothes were already showing from the digging. Perhaps I got closer, could even see her body. Grandma came into my dream, probably because she wanted to wake me up and have me remind Dad that she was getting dug up. But I still couldn't wrap my head around it. What would those people do if they dug up Grandma? After those people left, Dad was angry for a long while. He recalled what they looked like and came up with a few names. He was going to get the authorities involved to help him search for them, but he returned shortly after leaving the house. He said that on second thought, he couldn't go to the authorities. He was afraid that if he did, we'd have to hand in our food again. He kept on cursing, but there was nothing else he could do. Another 2 weeks or so went by. We had thin porridge mostly, with the ear of corn and cabbage for one meal halfway through. Every day I didn't get enough to eat, feeling hungrier and hungrier. At times, it felt like there was a fire burning in my stomach. At other times, it felt like there was a lump of black water churning inside, disturbing any sense of peace. When I got hungry enough, I didn't even feel hungry anymore, only exhausted. Once exhausted, I wanted to sleep. I slept on the bed, hoping I could have some good dreams where I could eat till I was full. I imagined that our family's weed grew back, tall and strong. I wanted to have a dream like that. However, the feeling of hunger was always there. Even if I dreamt, it wouldn't take long for me to be aroused by hunger. My brother was also hungry, and he had it worse than me. He was so starved when he was supposed to be growing that his condition became serious. One day I noticed there was something wrong with him. When I called his name, he was dazed for a long time before he responded to me and gave me a blank stare. His pale face had a tinge of red, but his eyelids were constantly drooping, as if he really wanted to sleep. I sensed something was wrong, so I touched his forehead. His forehead was hotter than burning charcoal.
姐姐，好冷。
It will be fine. My brother looked at me as if he was about to cry. I hastily called out to Mom, who was making porridge, and she ran over in a hurry. Mom reached over and touched my brother's forehead. Her face instantly started to turn pale.
当家的，彩儿病了！
Mama called out loudly for Dad, and upon hearing Mama's voice, Dad quickly ran over. Yeah, I'm glad that I left it early yesterday.
当家的，彩儿这样怎么办呢？
There's nothing you can do.
如果不赶快找郎中开药，彩儿的头会越来越烫，这该如何是好啊？
There is nothing you can do. You will not be able to pay for that doctor.
现在哪有钱找郎中啊？
是啊，该卖的东西都卖了，没什么可以卖了。这样下去，要不了多久，2个娃子都要死了，我们也要死了。
Probably, yeah.
那我能怎么办？
Well, okay, we could start with, we have water somewhere. We could start with cold... What are they called? I'm only remembering the German word. The cold bandages around the legs, on the face, just to cool him down. It's probably not gonna do a whole lot. I have no idea what temperature he has. What we can start doing something before going crazy, thinking we can't do anything, alright?
贵，算我求你了，你快把那玩意儿卖了吧。
The heirloom. What is the heirloom though? Is it a tree? Is it a fruit tree?
不能卖。
不能卖，贵，你就别把它当传家宝了。只有才儿活着，这传家宝才能传下去啊。
You also have a daughter, you.
它不只是传家宝，爹娘一直在说，那东西是神仙给咱们家的，卖了要遭报应。
I would love to know what it is before we can make a judgment here. All we hear is you cannot sell it, you cannot, and it's buried in the backyard or something. I have no idea, but I would love to know what it is. Or did they just try to build a mysterium around it?
报应，现在的报应还不够吗？才儿都饿出病来了，要死了，没药没粮，他就要挺不过去了。我们都快家破人亡了，全家快死绝了，你要断子绝孙了，还谈什么报应？
Yo, woman, it is not his fault that there's a famine, that there's a drought, that there's all this going on. You can blame him for bad decisions he made, sure, but he already parted with a lot of stuff. And since apparently there is magic in this world, I don't know, I wouldn't want to go against a deity. Not gonna lie.
那你非要留着这个，不如把穗儿卖了吧。
Thank you. Wouldn't want to stay with you either, Mom.
你带着穗儿去甘泉，甘泉不行，再往南边走，找个大点的城镇把穗儿卖了。
Great, great. Just cry out that you don't want your daughter right in front of her, why don't you? Good job, Mom. Good job. Mom shouted loudly at Dad. It was my first time seeing Mom speaking to Dad in such a loud voice. Not only did Dad change after my brother got sick, Mom also seemed to turn to a different person, especially at the height of her frenzy when she mentioned selling me. Was that something she said to provoke Dad, or did she really mean it? She probably meant it. Mom was different from Dad. She always loved my younger brother more than she loved me. And since I could neither carry on the family name nor gain status through the imperial examination, she told Grandma more than once that I was a money loser. She would definitely sell me if it would save my brother's life.
爹爹，娘。
I felt sad when I thought about it and it called out for my parents from a distance.
哪怕是死，我也想和你们死在一起。求求你们不要卖了我。
I'm so sorry. I walked toward my parents and said to them in a trembling voice, I wanted to change my mom's mind and ask my dad not to sell me. I stood there, head lowered, my body trembling. My eyes were red, but the tears didn't fall, as if caught in my eye sockets. Dad turned around and looked at me in a daze. He pressed his lips together and furrowed his brow. He looked at me, then my brother and my mom. Every time he looked at us, his gaze seemed to avoid us like he was afraid, only daring to linger for an instant. He kept looking at us, like that for a while. Dad wanted to say something but stopped himself before he could utter a single word. He closed his eyes as if he was making a really big decision. He then opened his eyes again and looked up as if he didn't want his tears to fall either. Eventually, he looked at me again. His previously dimmed eyes lit up.
孙儿乖，爹爹一定不会卖你的啊！也不要说什么死不死的。
Can we get to know what that heirloom is now?
哪怕爹爹死了，也不会丢下你，不会让你和彩儿死的。
Okay, yeah. This is the moment where he gets killed, I see.
我这就把后院的传家宝挖出来，拿去卖了。
What are you gonna get for that? I would love to know what it is, just to see what we would get for that, considering they only got a few copper coins for that bracelet.
若是爹娘泉下有怨，神仙降下报应，全算在我头上。
He walked up to my side and stroked my head.
爹爹，爹爹。
I heard what Dad said and I couldn't hold my tears anymore. I threw myself into Dad's arms while I choked back sobs and kept calling him. Dad, taken aback by my sudden embrace, hesitated for a second before stretching out his arms and pulling me close.
孙儿乖，你不会饿死的，你会活下来，一直活很久。
Let's hope that's actually true.
以后啊，等你长大了，爹爹给你找个好人，他会是能保护你的，你也看对眼的人。
Oh, please don't say that she's gonna say, no, I'm gonna marry Dad. Although no, apparently she already knows what marriage is, so... A good husband, I see. Great, thanks, Dad.
找个好男人照顾你，对你好，爹爹也可以放心养老了。
He held me close in one arm, his other hand gently patting my back. He spoke to me softly, his voice full of tenderness.
爹爹，
Can we do anything about the brother, though? It feels like this has been going on for a couple of minutes and nobody has looked after the brother. Started with any first aid measurements to cool him down. Hello? I buried my head in my dad's arms and wept. I like Dad. He had always been as good to me as he had been to my brother and had never harbored the thought of not wanting me. Dad is the best. What is that? A day later, my brother had some thick porridge and ate some cabbage, and he actually got better. His forehead was not as hot, and although he still looked very weak, there should be no need to rush to find a doctor. But even so, we still don't have enough food to last the year. Dad said we still need to figure it out. At dusk, Dad dug up the family heirloom in the backyard. I initially thought it would be something shiny gold or emerald green like the jewelry Mom once had. As it turns out, the family heirloom was just a strange piece of meat. The meat was greyish-white. It looked like fatty pork, but was more translucent. It had traces at the bottom like annual rings. Perhaps I was hallucinating, but I felt like it was squirming slowly. It truly seemed a treasure given by the deity. Meat they had buried there for years. Dad first placed the family heirloom on the bed and note-held to it 3 times before wrapping it up with an old piece of clothing. Dad then took an ear of corn and some silver pieces as he was getting ready to leave. He planned to go south and find out how much he could sell the family heirloom for in Ganquan first. If it wasn't worth much there, he'd keep going south and ask around in the large towns.
家里的粮还够吃1个多月，我这次出行大概要花上10几天。若是才儿和穗儿病了，就给他们喝点浓粥，多加点白菜。
They still have cabbage left? Okay.
连云，照顾好孩子，也照顾好你自己。
She's not gonna care for Zoe at all, but okay, whatever. Dad left a few reminders for Mom. He then carried the bundle with the family heirloom in it on his back, turned around and walked toward the door.
爹爹，
I called out to Dad.
哎，怎么了，穗儿？
He turned around and smiled at me gently.
这个给你。
I walked up to him and stuffed a pouch in Dad's hand. The pouch was really small, only as big as Dad's palm. Oh, he's the guy that you kill at the beginning of the game. That's why it was relevant, I see. It was red. The fabric came from a corner of my dress. I had just sewn the pouch this morning. While Dad was still sleeping, I sewed it, so I keep forgetting how to pronounce that, and I'm gonna go with sewed, I'm sorry. I hoped this pouch could stay by Dad's side in my stead. I hoped it could keep Dad safe and allow him to come home early.
缝得真好，谢谢穗儿。
Dad then took the pouch and stroked my head. He turned around and again, but put on his straw hat and the bundle and kept walking forward. Taking a few steps forward, he suddenly stopped, as if he had forgotten something.
穗儿，才儿，在家要听娘的话，爹爹很快就回来。
Come back soon, Dad. Don't die. Dad said those words with his back facing us, his voice seemingly carrying a subtle hint of sadness. After that, Dad left. My brother and I leaned against the window watching him. His shadow grew longer and longer, only under the sunset, his figure receding into the twilight. I watched as Dad became smaller and smaller, shrinking from the size of a bowl to a fist, then to the size of a soybean, until he disappeared completely. Dad vanished at the end of the horizon, fading into the endless mountains. 10 days later, Dad didn't come back. A month later, Dad still hadn't returned. 2 months later, we were starving to death. Dad still wasn't home. Dad didn't honor his words. He said he was going to be back in a couple of weeks, but he never came home. How or when? Oh, Daring Leader, chapter 12. Because he kept...
梁爷，救我！
Because he kept that pouch. She knows what happened to her dad. Okay. In the foggy ruins, I heard a voice. It sounded like a man, humble and panicked. How can I help you? I asked the man who spoke.
吃的，给我点吃的就行。
I have no food either.
梁爷啊，我3天没吃东西了，咱都是从京城一路逃荒过来的。行好，救命！救命！
Who are you? How do you know me? It was no doubt to me, on his knees, banging his head against the ground, eyes all red from hunger. I'll share some food with you, but not a heap, just enough for 2 days. I reached out from the darkness and passed him the food I had produced from nowhere. Who was this person? I couldn't rightly tell who he was by his hungry mug. The misty scene swiftly crumbled away. A new setting sprang up from the ground, appearing abruptly before me. It was a run-down old mansion. The mansion's gate lay smashed open, the courtyard strewn with broken rice jars, the ground littered with mutilated bodies. Among these bodies were children, elderly ones, landlords and their dishevelled concubines. All of them lay with their throats slit in pools of blood, while several bandits sat in the distance. Some perched on collapsed house beams, others on makeshift chairs fashioned from corpses, laughing and chatting about the recent carnage. I recognized them. The leader of these bandits was none other than the starving man I had rescued not long ago. You killed the whole family?
对啊，杀了他家快10个人吧。兄弟们抢粮又杀人，还和他的妻妾快活了一把。
Yeah. Great. One good deed paid with a lot of carnage.
梁爷呀，我们也是被逼无奈呀。
Right.
这些大户都一个样，一点同情心都没有。我们一来要粮就把门封得死死的，一颗米都不愿给。
Is that a reason to kill everybody?
兄弟们在门边候着，他的家丁还从门里扔石头，把很多兄弟都砸得头破血流。我们呢，都是从饿死的人堆里爬出来的，再等下去也是饿死，不如抢他娘的。
That's some twisted logic you got there.
等我们砸烂了门，冲进了后院，好家伙，他们的粮还够吃10年，那凭什么一点都不给啊？兄弟们一下都到了气头上，就把他们一家人都屠了。人一旦见了血，根本停不下来。
You can always stop. You know, in a way, I can understand them, but I would never condone violence, especially not against the elderly and children and women in that matter. So, yeah. Guess we should have let him starve to death instead. But that the rations for 2 days was apparently enough to get him fit enough to do all this. Makes me wonder if they even had anyone to really guard them inside, because yes, starved people brought to the brink of, well, death will not be rational. They will probably take more damage than they should, because they are just pumped full of adrenaline and that hope to get something to eat to survive until the next day. So I can understand it, but since this man apparently was rich enough to have several servants, multiple concubines, and children, you would think that he would have enough money to also have guards around him that would protect him, but okay. Guess they weren't trained well enough for that. If you just killed them, I'd be fine with it, but raping women, slaughtering the young and the old, is that what humans do? That's downright beastly. I clenched my teeth angrily and laid into him.
他妈的，给你尊重才叫你一声爷，你咋还当真了？
I don't want your respect, my man.
就这世道，我们这些一无所有的人，说是不做恶人，你说要怎么活？
But not like this.
而且，看看你自己吧，你的脚下不也是踩着那么多的人？啊？
He jeered twice and nodded at my feet. I looked down in a panic. Underneath me lay a mountain of dead bodies. It was submerged in a black lake. Only a few men stuck out above the surface. I had no clue what lay beneath. As I stared into the dark depth below, the shapes became clearer. Underneath the whole lake were women, old folks and kids' bodies. Those near the top were swollen and blackened, limbs hanging down, faces below. Further down, some were snarling, showing monstrous fangs, trying hard to climb up. Ah! I yelled, falling back and nearly slipping off the heap of bodies.
梁，你没杀任何一个妇女和小娃子，但他们还是因你而死了呀。
Of course that would happen. I was waiting for that nightmare. The bandit leader in the distance sat on another pile of bodies. That's when I realized he seemed to have changed his voice and appearance. His voice was tongues and so was his face.
梁，你也是恶人，何必在这儿假清高呢？
At least he had principles instead of you, who just would murder everything and anything that came before you and your goal.
陪我一起死吧，一起死！
Tang yelled at me, then started laughing like crazy. He grabbed a dagger, stabbed himself in the neck, blood gushing out. All of a sudden his body exploded, broken apart and merged with the blood. The blood turned into a rushing flood with faces of the bodies appearing in it. Boom, boom, boom. Loud, thundering noise erupted. A flood of blood, crowded with heads, rushed towards me, blocking my sight completely. The pile of bodies beneath me and the lake below started to shake. The pile swiftly sank. Men on the surface stared at me, while women and children below the lake extended their hands, trying to pull me down. The dead stared with wide eyes and twisted faces, roaring to kill me. I panicked, trying hard to escape, but there was no way out, and I slowly sank into the sea of corpses.
良夜，良夜。
Thanks, Mansui. Suddenly, I heard a voice. It was Mansui's voice, slicing through the air, breaking apart this blood-soaked world. Her voice turned into a spider silk beam of light, piercing through the pile of bodies. I reached out, grabbing the light she sent down and was lifted into the sky by it. I woke up in panic from the nightmare. Mansui was right there beside me. Her face looked odd, a bit scared. Guess it was just a dream.
良夜，你怎么了？
Nightmare. Just a bad dream. And you? Why do you look so scared? I asked her, puzzled.
刚才我本来在睡觉，但是突然听到一些奇怪的声音，不太对劲。
Oh, are we surrounded? What kind of sounds?
你趴下来听听。
Alright, I'll listen. Mansui pointed down, saying to me. I leaned down, pressed my ear to the ground. Rumble, rumble. I heard a faint rumbling. It sounded like the flood in my dream. In my dream, I thought it was the sound of a flood. Hello, can we not repeat the same sentence over and over? But after walking, I realized it was hoofbeats. Riders were nearby. Given the intensity, there might be dozens, maybe even hundreds of them. Not good. Wake everyone up. Everyone up. We've got to move, and fast. I scrambled up, rousing the still dozing lambs. Get up. Fast. The lambs blinked away, sleep rising to their feet.
良夜，怎么了？
We are in trouble, that's what. Just waking Kyung-hwa tilted her head, questioning me. No time for questions, let's go. I hurriedly told Kyung-hwa, tossing yesterday's unpacked parcels onto the pack horse and undoing its tether. But it was probably too late.
右着，那边右着。
Yep, someone is here. I heard hooves and yelling behind me. From above, about 30 steps away, I saw shadows moving, though far off. Those shadows were definitely horsemen. At least 30, maybe even 50 of them. Hurry! I led the pack horse and the lambs, trying to escape, but the figures in the distance were swiftly riding closer.
你们几个不要逃！你们跑不过马的，再逃我们就放街了。
I don't think anyone would want to actually stop and wait for you if you tried to catch up in that frantic of a manner. I'm sorry, could you calm down, tell me who you are and why you're following me? And then I might consider stopping, alright? The soldier was talking in northern Shan accent, threatening us with arrows, and I could faintly hear the strings being drawn. What now? Grab the last chance to flee, or play it safe and hope for the best? I don't know. Let's stop. It's probably gonna be our death sentence, but I haven't chosen the wrong thing yet, so I want to see what the game does if it kills me. No, can't let them shoot. Even if I were confident enough to take the risk with these lambs. No escape. No arrows. I spun around and yelled, making us all stop in our tracks. I stood rooted to the spot, and so did the lambs. It seemed almost as though we were stuck in place by some magical spell. Seeing we weren't moving, the riders lowered their bows and advanced cautiously, their horses edging closer, step by step. Before long, they emerged from the trees. Not just one, but a whole bunch of them, with still more catching up. They quickly surrounded us. Many approached us, at least 20 from what I could see. The sound of hoofs, footsteps, and clashing weapons echoed around us, and there was no telling how many more people were concealed in the distance. As they drew nearer, I could finally make them out. Men on horseback, dressed in rough cloth. Some with red robes draped over their shoulders, others wearing red turbans. So it is in reference to the yellow turban army, just in this case the red turbans? Okay. Some carried axes, others swords. Their attire and weapons varied. They didn't look friendly. Their eyes were both ignorant and fierce, and as they closed in on us, they stared at us intently, like we were prey. Who were they? My mind raced trying to figure that out. For starters, they aren't official soldiers. Regular army types have a particular look, and they don't usually cut through the hills like this. If they are heading somewhere official, they stick to the main roads. So, are they bandits then? That's not right either. I've traveled this road from Shanso to Haisho before. Never heard of any big camps in these hills, and even if there were, they wouldn't have this many horsemen. Bandits are usually broke and only a few get horses. They don't come from a camp with hundreds of men. And something is off. Why would these people be riding horses in the mountains? Sure, it's a bit flatter here, no steep slopes. You can just barely ride a horse, but why bother?
梁爷，他们是反军。
How do you know? Just as I was puzzled, Mansui suddenly spoke up. Rebels? I paused. She brought me back to reality. Yeah, these folks sure look like rebels. In the last decade, there's been non-stop disasters all around, so things aren't as peaceful as they used to be. Many people on the brink of starving have banded together, turned to thieving to survive, and those thieving gangs joined up to form rebel armies. Rebels riding through the mountains aren't too surprising. This bunch might be a scouting party, checking things out before the main force moves in. But I've only heard of rebels up in northern Shan, so what are they doing here in Jin? The fella from earlier had a northern Shan twang in his talk. Could they really be from up north?
哎，你们都是哪的了？
Well, all over? The lead rebel hopped off his horse, sizing me up. The rest of the rebels encircled us, blocking any way out. Shanso, I replied calmly, showing dignity.
做生的了。
Well, taking them to Haizhou.
啊，他们是你的娃，还是说你是人家子了？
Kind of mixture of both. I kind of adopted them, so I guess they're my kin, but I also tried to human traffic them, so... I stayed quiet and felt lost for words. Honestly, it's tough to explain my connection with the Lums right now. I started out as their escort, but when I couldn't bear to leave them in a bad situation, I murdered my former partner and was now trying to arrange good endings for them. In that case, I guess I still count as a human trafficker. The rebel leader saw I didn't reply. He stared at me angrily, seeming to confirm I was a human trafficker. If only Tang was here right now. Tang was good at spinning lies, and with a good enough story, we might be able to talk our way out of this before the crowd closed in. But with Tang here, we'd be working in shifts and wouldn't even have been caught off guard by a bunch of strangers.
爷爷，他不是人牙子，我们是一个戏班子，大伙唱影子戏的。
Thanks, Mansei.
梁爷是我们的老师， 要送我们去亥州的张老爷那里唱戏。
Just when I was unsure what to say, Mansui spoke up. She seamlessly took over Tang's role. This time she's pulling a similar trick to last time with the soldiers, only this time she didn't have to act like a mute. She smiled sweetly at the rebels while talking, showing them the wooden crates on the pack horse. The rebels on horseback glared at her, but she didn't back
不用
down.
给老子看，老子也不知道啥是影子戏了。
Great. Yeah, well, if she didn't show you proof, you would have probably murdered us on the spot, so,
再男的不是人样子就好。我平生第一很狗地主，第二很狗贪官，第三就是很人样子。
Good, good. Guess it's a good thing that he did not open his mouth.
但凡你是这三者之一，我都要砍了你的头，剥了你的皮。
Yeah, yep. The rebel grumbled out his words. He was blunt, saying whatever's on his mind. Can we leave then? I asked calmly, preparing to take the lambs and go.
哎，不行，
Why not? He lifted his sword, blocking our way.
按照军规，我们行军要是被人看见了，都不能轻易的放走。
Can we join you?
你带着女娃先跟我们走一趟，我们让大哥来决断一下了。
Cool. The rebel gruffly told me off, his haughty demeanor rubbing me the wrong way. You stopped me. I wouldn't have known that you were rebels. If you just left us be, you know? Kinda on you. Other rebels around us gave us fierce looks. It seemed that if I tried to take the lambs and leave, they'd kill us on the spot. Compared to regular soldiers, these guys might lack cunning, but they're simpler and rougher. Going with them, where would that lead us? I didn't pull out my sword against the rebels. There were too many of them, and I knew I couldn't win. I wasn't about to throw my life away. So, along with the lambs, they tied us up and marched us to their main force. I never liked the rebels much. Most of them were starving peoples from up north in northern Shan. Past few years, they'd been hit hard by one disaster after another, droughts, floods, and locusts. The Emperor promised relief funds, but it all got pocketed by officials and landlords, and nothing was left for the commoners. So they turned to the rebels to avoid starving. I heard the rebels aren't any better than bandits. They go around burning and looting, and sometimes they will rape women and slaughter the elderly and young. They could be even more vicious than the official soldiers and bandits if we were to compare using animals. Stop it! Stop it with your stupid metaphors. I'll be a lone wolf, and they'd be a pack of wild dogs. Great. Now I'm in their hands. Seems like these rebels really dislike human traffickers. I'll have to learn from Tang and Mansui, keeping cautious. I can't afford to be too brash when talking to them. Lost in thinking about the rebels, I walked with them for about 2 hours. When I came back to my senses, we were out of the mountain in a village. This village seemed like a small one on Jin's southern border. I'd never been here before, but don't know where it is either. Where are we? I asked the rebel leading us.
李家聪，
Cool. He told me the place name. where are we headed now?
我带你们去见我大哥。
Cool. Okay, so we're meeting the boss. Cool, 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 yeah. The rebel replied to me. At the same time, he led me through Lija village. The village didn't look rich, and there were few people about. However, it seemed the village hadn't been hit hard by disasters, and the crops weren't too bad, unlike the hellish scene in Suegua village. I noticed the rebels talking to the villagers. Some of them were holding hoes, while others were carrying fertilizer buckets. They were moving around in the fields, seemingly working. Huh? That's weird. Are these rebels even working for the villagers?
我马上要带你们见大哥，说话都跟我恭敬点，知道啊？不然小心你们就没命了。
Alright, I will do what you say. The rebel warned us, then took us across a farm to a big house. The house was bigger than others in the village, with a well in front. It seemed like a place where a respected village elder would live. Guided by the rebel, we walked toward the house and first saw red flags stuck at the ground. Then we overheard the boss speaking with the village elder.
老白，你姓李，我也姓李，你看，这是咱俩的缘分嘛。
I would think Lee is not that uncommon, but okay.
俺这些伙计都不是啥坏人，大家本都是纯良的百姓，只是叫狗官逼上绝路罢了，迫不得已才出来闯的。哦，等一声儿，我给你去牛棚下下牛。我呀，原来是在驿站当差的，最懂出生了。
Okay, why are you sweet talking our village elder here? So you can stay? Question mark?
行，小李啊，我看你确实不像土匪，带的人也和善。
And it worked. All right.
你们不伤我们性命，不拿我们钱财，那想留就留吧。啊，要粮我们也能分些。
Alright, I don't know if that's a good idea, but sure, share your food, let's go.
只是我担心啊，到时候上面的人查过来要降罪我们，那该如何是好啊？
True. Well, I guess when the authorities come, these rebels will attack them.
哎，好说呀！等官兵来了，你就说，我把刀架到你脖子上。 逼着你收留俺们两菜，对吧？
Alright, that's one way of dealing with it.
你就说，俺都是哈怂，俺生了锅饿急了，要是叫俺们饿了肚子，村民就要被吃了。
Oh, he looks good. Can we marry you off to Mansui? Okay, you're probably also at the same age as Liang, so maybe not the best idea, but as we turned the corner, we could see the old man sigh, while beside him a smiling younger man was chatting. The young man wore a felt hat and a blue upper garment. He seemed to be in his prime, with prominent cheekbones, deep-set eyes, a straight nose and eyebrows like those of an eagle. His face wasn't handsome, I beg to differ, but it gave off a sharp and capable vibe. Was he the boss of this band of rebels?
大哥，
Apparently he was.
咋了？
我给你报件事。早上巡山时，我们看到有一缕烟，起初以为是官兵，凑近才发觉不是。
Yeah, it wasn't. Ah, right, yeah. Guess our fire was in detriment to us in this case.
山里的人是他们，一个男的， 带着4个女娃，我看着像人鸭子。
I look like a human trafficker. What does a human trafficker look like? Huh? The boss scanned me and the girls with his eagle-like eyes. Finally, he locked eyes with me and I returned his gaze. I met his stare with dignity, trying to match his aura without backing down.
伙计，你从哪达来的？
Shanso.
是山地的人不？
Nope. Born elsewhere.
多大？
Oh, will we finally learn his age? 26, so he's 15 years older than Mansui. Good.
那挺巧的嘛，跟我一个年龄，真是天大的缘分。
Thought so. He grinned, his tense expression easing up. This rebel leader sure likes finding common ground with others. But I reckon he's just using that trick to get close. And by the looks of him, don't seem like we're the same
哎，
age.
伙计，你到底是不是人鸭子？
Yeah, I'm gonna answer you that, of course, especially after your friend here told me that he will decapitate me and skin me alive if he ever found out that I'm a human trafficker. Yep. That's why I will absolutely tell you yes, I am. But I learned the way of the good Samaritan, Samarita, and I'm now a nice uncle who is trying to find a new home for these girls. So, technically, no. As I mulled over his age, she coldly repeated his question. No way. Sorry, guess I'll have to stick to the story Mansui spun earlier. We aren't human traffickers. We are a theatre troupe, taking these girls to a high jour to perform.
啥戏？
What kind of show? Shadow play.
影子戏，那我可喜欢了。哎，你们演的东西有吗？
Of course. Got it all, everything on the pack horse. The boss took a moment to think about that. He gave me a look, then checked out the lambs.
女娃们，这伙计没骗我吧？
No, of course not. Why would I lie to you?
梁爷没骗你，
Thanks, Mansui.
没骗你。
Kyonghwa, we have to learn some lying here, please. A bit more confidence behind these words.
我骗。
Thanks, Hunger. The lambs were all helping with the lie, but except for Mansui, who was quite skilled, the other 3 lambs seemed a bit awkward. It didn't feel like we could keep up the act much longer. What now?
乖了，真乖了。
What's odd? The boss frowned as he glanced at the lambs.
我见的人多了，戏班子也见过，绝对不是你家这样的。
Oh, why not? What's so different about us and other theatre troupes?
伙计，你这模样，身子骨拧了，目露凶光，我一眼就看出来，你是走恶死的。
I do evil deeds. Oh no. My good sir, I'm a hero at heart. I have my principles, alright?
可为啥这些小娃个个都替你扯谎了？啊？
Because they like me. Sha la la la. He furrowed his brow in confusion and asked. He has sharp
哎，
eyes.
大哥，他们的话一听就像是憋的，哪怕我脑子不聪明都信不得了。
Hush, Rebel A, please.
他就是人鸭子，女娃娃被他骗了。哎，我们快活挂了他！
The rebel who brought us here seemed to have also figured out that we weren't a theatre troupe. He angrily drew his sword, ready to attack us.
西塞，
Hi, Jackson. You good? All right. Boss Lee bellowed angrily, stopping his men
我
abruptly.
都又决断了，急从一起。
No rush. Very good. Thank you.
伙计，实话说吧，我不在乎你是戏班子还是人伢子。
Oh, you don't care. That makes me wonder. Tell me, why? The rebel leader looked at me and spoke directly.
俺的粮有限，不能带太多人。这是军队在秘密行军，你们遇到俺们是不能轻易放你们走的，不能叫你家报官的。
Ah, you mean you don't care in the way that you would kill us anyway? Cool, cool, cool. Thanks.
这样吧，简单处理，你跟俺的人比试一下。
I have to fight for my space in this? Okay.
赢了，我就收你在军中打仗；输了，我就把你们都杀了。咋想？
Okay, sure. I guess that's as good a deal as any. The rebel leader shot me a sharp look, offering a blunt and deadly suggestion. A showdown? Was he thinking I looked handy enough to take on his men? Sounds reasonable. If I win, it shows I'm valuable to him and he'd rather recruit me than kill me. It seems like a safe bet. But what about the lambs? Should I try negotiating with him again or just agree to the showdown? Definitely negotiate with him. That is probably a trick. Negotiate again. Deciding life and death with the match, huh? I'm fine with that. But I want to talk about terms again.
Huh?
Oh. I don't want to join your army. If I win, you let us go. Not just me, all of them too. I'll fight you more, but these girls go with me.
哎呀，跟我谈条件，伙计，你胆子不小嘛？
I know, I'm such a good man. Yep, won't fight without that condition. I stared at Boss Lee, firm.
那要是一个女娃一条命，一条命比一场，你敢比不？
Okay. Yeah. Boss Lee frowned, eyeing me coldly before nodding slowly.
那一言为定，就这办。
Okay, cool. With a hearty laugh, he signaled to his men.
来人，先5个刀耍的好的，拉6把主刀过来。
5 sharp blades and 6 bamboo swords? What?
是。
With my proposal accepted, he motioned for his men to prepare for the challenge. After about a stick of incense time, a few rebel soldiers came one by one. They had bamboo sticks in their hands, which had been roughly cut by knives.
哎，结束了。
The rebel swordsman tossed the bamboo stick, hurling it towards me. Smack. I reached out and caught it, gripping it tight. This isn't a bamboo sword, it's just a stick. I looked at the bamboo stick in my hand, frowning.
讲究用先，俺这是军步课，平常都是用竹棍练刀的。
Alright, I will try my best. Alright, who's first? I looked at the row of rebel swordsmen.
我先来。
Cool. A burly, dark-skinned man grabbed a bamboo stick and charged at me. This guy? He's a towering 9-footer with a fierce mark like a door god. What the hell is a door god? Judging by his clumsy steps, it's clear he's all brawn and no brain. Easy pickings. Whoosh. He swung his stick, closing the gap to just 2 steps away from me, then charged forward, aiming a hard swing at my upper body. I took a step back, quick, leaned away to avoid his first swing. At the same time, I spun my waist, lifting the stick to slash at his neck. Smack. Quick as a flash, my stick hit his neck before he could dodge. He grunted in pain at the blow. In just 1 round, I managed to hit this brute right in the neck. You go, Jackson? Okay. He froze in place, stunned by my blow. Initially, he seemed like he wanted to retaliate, but seeing my stick still against his neck, thought better of it. If I had used a real blade, his neck would have been halfway severed by now. Alright, next one. Another one, watching his buddy's quick loss, seemed ticked. He grabbed a bamboo stick and rushed at me. Crack. Crack, crack. The new guy swung his stick at me repeatedly. I blocked, and in no time we exchanged blows 3 times. He's got some moves, a real fighter. Yeah, let out a deep breath, eyes fixed on his moves, hunting for a gap. Do you want out, Jackson? 1 second. Idiot dog. Found it. Jackson! You know it's cold outside. Found it. When he swung, he left his left side open. I sidestepped and swung my stick at his waist. Smack. The stick sliced through the air, hitting him with a crisp sound. Oi. He gets a CG for that? Alright. Just as I dealt with the second challenger, I heard Boss Lee call out. He grabbed a bamboo stick and came charging at me. Huh? He wanted to challenge me too? He didn't waste a second. He came charging at me, swinging his bamboo stick with a fierce determination. Whoosh, whoosh. His strikes came fast and strong like a stampede I couldn't escape. I dodged to the side just in time to avoid both attacks. Then, as I went to counter with a swing of my own, he struck again. It had remarkable speed and invincible force, making it impossible to dodge. Bring it on. I braced myself and swung back with all I had. Crack. Alright. Crack, crack, crack. He swung his bamboo stick and I swung mine, the two rattling against each other in rapid succession. We clashed for several more rounds. I know, right? I'm such a good fighter. He praised, then swiftly twisted his body, spinning his bamboo stick towards me. Sharp, fast, precise, and skillful. In his hands, the bamboo stick seemed to take on the essence of a blade. What skill! He wasn't just a figurehead. He knew how to wield a blade. Not daring to slow down, I surged forward, meeting his blade flashes head-on. Blade flashes clashed and intertwined, creating a dazzling display of light. We do not have any blades currently out. What are you talking about? There isn't no metal on metal. It's bamboo on bamboo. I would be worried if we actually created a fire from those two hitting each other. Phew. I backed up, taking a breath. We've been going at it for 30 rounds and it's still neck and neck. His strikes keep coming hard and fast. I'm holding on, giving it everything I got, but just barely keeping up. But I know I've got what it takes to come out on top. As the fight went on, I could see his hits aren't hitting as hard and I'm getting the hang of his fancy moves. Won't be long before I reckon I can take him down. But I've got to hold on tight. My energy is draining, heart's pounding like crazy, taste of blood in my mouth, vision getting fuzzy. Got to hang in there if I want to win.
对了，不必了。
Thank you. What?
为人发喜心，不必了。哎呀，第一回能遇着手足俺们多道的人。
Ooh, I win! Yay! Bosley panted hard, looking at me tiredly. We didn't finish 5 rounds, did we?
我一个人算3局，你赢5局了。
Thank you. Is this all right? And you'll let us all go?
啊，我留这小女娃有啥用？带走，带走，带走，你把人家都带走。
Thank you. Boss Lee tossed the bamboo stick to his men and gestured towards me. Aren't you afraid I'll snitch to the official soldiers if I run into them?
不操心啊，教授就知道了。你不是会报官的那种人。
You're right on that one, and I don't think they would believe me, but... Thanks, I guess. Boss Lee glanced at me, grinning, and chuckled. Is this guy serious? Is he really letting us walk away like this? I shot him a skeptical look, but I didn't want to stick around for any longer. I went over to the lambs and was about to lead them away. We're leaving. I said slowly to the lambs, then casually took Sir's hand.
等一下，
What's it? Bosley suddenly yelled out. I stopped. The lambs stopped too. They were a bit scared and I was a bit worried. What now? Was he changing his mind? We were supposed to go free if we won the match. In the end, is he afraid we'll report their route to the officials and won't let us go?
现在有些晚了，你这走夜路也不方便，干脆在俺们这儿住一晚上，啊？
You're letting us stay the night. How very nice of you, all right?
哦，还有个事情，你家不是会影子戏吗？真的吗？假的？
We're not skilled, but we are learning.
俺这兄弟很多都是穷乡僻壤出来的，从来都没看过影子戏。
Sure, we'll play for you.
俺这些人呀，也不知道啥时候就把命丢了，几百个人跟官兵拼杀一番，爬出来的也就10几个。
True, especially with their capabilities.
看一回戏对很多人来说是头一回，也大概只有一回了。
Okay, get to the point. You're just asking us to stay so we can shadow play. All right, let's
哎，
go.
大哥，你咋又说这来不吉利的话了？你上次不是说了吗？不能说这种话，扰乱军心。
哎，你去下去！我这不算扰乱军心，哪怕几百个人杀出一个，只要把官兵杀完了，也是俺们赢。
But it might still be a victory for you, but at what cost if everybody but one person survives? It's not gonna change anything. In the long run, you would have just wasted a whole lot of potential.
怕死就不来闯，想闯就别怕死。我开始不就说了，这是扰乱军心。嗯。
是，大哥说的对，我们都不怕死，我们都能闯。
Right. Let's break through, I guess.
不好意思，伙计，让你见笑了。俺们这些兄弟经常这样吵。
All right.
哎，总之，你家能不能给俺们演一撮呀？啊，演咋想都行，不会让人家白演。我会用好酒好菜招待你家的。
We will gladly accept the grub. The booze can stay where it is. Boss Lee eyed me and the lambs, his face lighting up with a sly grin as he rambled on. He was so eager and sincere that it was tough to turn him down. Plus, the night was unforgiving to the mountain trails, and a break in a friendly village sounded tempting. And, well, the promise of a hearty meal and some drinks was hard to resist. I glanced at the lambs. They seemed to be on board too. All right, we'll do it your way, but we are not good at acting, so don't expect much. And if the official soldiers come tomorrow, we'll say you made us stay.
对，那就这样办。蓉蓉，去给俺安排住处。
Please do.
是。
Boss Lee and his soldiers split. The lambs finally relaxed a bit. They started chatting with me in low
梁爷，
voices.
刚才你打的真好。
Thank you, thank you.
梁爷想死昨天的红袍子一样。
Red robe? Who the hell is Red robe? Red robe? Like Lu Bu in the Shadowplay? Ah! These lambs sure knew how to flatter. I told them we'd put on a Shadowplay later. We'll do it like last night. The lass and I will do the shadows. You girls bang the drums. I looked at Mansui, then addressed the other lambs.
好。哎，腌好了牛肉吃吗？
Maybe. Yeah, I'll ask them for some meat later.
梁爷，我们都真像是戏班子了。
The rascals were all talking over each other. Yeah, I guess I'm really getting into this role. I had forgotten my identity as a human trafficker and now was feeling more like the leader of a theatre troupe. Maybe subconsciously. It might not have been just the promise of food and shelter that made me agree to stay. I really did want to put on a shadow play with the lambs. After all, like Bosley said, the first chance in a lifetime may easily also be the last. This would be the first time I'd act with the lambs in front of others, and probably also the last. I'm just worried because I know I was supposed to join the rebels for the true ending. If I messed it up, or if I get a second choice later on. As night fell, the silver moon peeked through the clouds. Boss Lee gathered a bunch of rebels and we lit a big fire in the village center. We set up a white screen in front of the campfire and the lambs tied the shadow puppets to bamboo sticks. There were lots of spectators tonight. The rebels formed circles around us, crowding in close. Their eyes were wide with curiosity, not wanting to miss a thing. Just like Bosley said, they probably hadn't seen a shadow play before, so they were eager to see what we had in store. Phew. I let out a big breath and settled behind the white screen. Beside me, Mansui plopped down. She passed me Lu Bu and took Songfair. It was the same one we did last night. 3 heroes battle Lu Bu.
梁爷，开始吧。
Let's. Okay. She gave me a small smile and I nodded to the other lambs. The drums began. She took a deep breath and started singing again. Oh, it sounds better than before. Mansui sang softly, her voice blending with the crackling of the campfire, touching the hearts of the rebel soldiers gathered around. They're quite a lively bunch, I gotta say. After catching our shadow play, they've been cheering non-stop, craving for more. Under Bosley's orders, they rearranged themselves, soldiers from the front swapping with those at the back, and so we ended up doing a few more runs. After that, Bosley kept his word and treated us to a feast with good grub and drinks. It was our first proper meal since Sancho, and with my mind clear, I chowed down heartily, filling up on meat and knocking back plenty of booze. While we drank and ate meat, the rebels chatted around me. One of them shared a story about a few years back. He was gathering herbs in the mountain ravine and came face to face with a tiger. It snarled at him from about a dozen steps away, and he was so scared he felt his knees no-towing and begging for mercy. But the tiger didn't get human talk. Instead of forgiving him, it wanted to bite him. Feeling scared, he thought whether he knelt and got bit or fought back, he'd die anyway. So he stood up and fought. He grabbed a stick nearby and swung it at the tiger, hitting its head hard. It howled, wanting to return the favor, but got hit again in the belly, hurting its insides. It ran off quickly. The crowd didn't believe the soldier's story and started mocking him. He got mad and insisted he wasn't lying, standing up to argue with the others. That's when Boss Lee spoke up. He gulped down a jug of wine, motioned for his crew to cease the bickering, and then got to telling his own story. He said he used to be a messenger, drawing his salary from the emperor, but the government shuttered the messenger post after just a few years, leaving him without a job. After that, he went back home to farm and became the village chief, but all he got was droughts and locusts, leaving the land barren. The taxes kept coming, so he borrowed from a landlord named Ai to save himself and his neighbors. But when it was payback time, grain prices shot up and he couldn't repay. Mr. Ai dragged him to court, beat him up, but spared him prison due to the village's pleas. Then more trouble. Mr. Ai and the officials conspired against him, planning to punish him further, even to the point of death. Sentenced to death, he escaped with help from the villagers. Soldiers chased them into the woods, intending to starve them to death. He was pushed to the brink several times. He'd never thought of rebellion before, but faced with starvation, had no other choice. After rebelling, there was no turning back for him. All that was left was to push forward. His words stirred up passion. Tears welled up in the eyes of the rebels behind him, beside him. Listening to all this, I didn't feel much. Though I despised the soldiers and the landlords, I hadn't experienced the oppression they had. After hearing so much, I just felt sleepy. After that, I dozed off, woke up to the birds chirping and the rebels packing up. Before we knew it, it was morning, time to go. Woke up the lambs, packed up and said goodbye to the rebels. Boss Lee and his followers saw us off at the village entrance.
哎，伙计，真不跟俺们一打打仗？
He stood by the village entrance, giving my shoulder a pat and asking me with a grin, "Nah, gotta wrap up some business with the little ones."
那他们事办完以后，你能来不？
After that, sure. Probably not. I told him straight. After all, even being a bandit is safer than fighting as a rebel.
哎，你这身手，不跟我一起去死，真是可惜了。
I kinda want to. For the story.
要是到时候想来，俺们也没叫官兵全灭的话，尽管来投我。
Will do. He looked a bit sad, letting out a long sigh and shaking his head. Easy for you to say, but how will I find you when the time comes? I asked casually.
那好办，到时候你一路去先造反军队，见一个就报一个我的名号，一路打去，
Eventually.
肯定能
Okay.
先传我。
I will do so. What's your full name, anyway? Suddenly realized I didn't even know his full name after all this time.
李创江，
My dashing General Lee, alright. Dashing General Lee. I repeated the name silently. It's new to me, but honestly, I didn't pay much attention to the names of the rebels.
我在高草王手底下起事，你要是闯王，我是闯将。
Alright. General's also great. Who needs a king?
你要是碰说义军，就报闯将的名号来选我。
Sure thing.
闯，来跟俺们闯出一片天，杀的那些官兵丢盔弃甲，杀的那些狗官跪地求饶。哈哈哈哈！
Make them beg for mercy, for sure. He chuckled confidently, striking a heroic stance. Got it. I nodded and led the pack horse heading towards Haizhou with the lambs. After a while, I glanced at the rebel soldiers line up in the distance. A flag fluttered in the wind, pole shining silver and crimson, flag looking like it was soaked in blood. I seemed to have seen it yesterday. There wasn't much wind yesterday, so I didn't see what the pattern was on the flag. At first, I thought it would have the Li character, because most generals would put their last name on the flag. But today, I realized it wasn't Li. It was a big Chuang character. Am I supposed... Ah, yeah, okay. Chuang. Dash. Dashing general. The rebel general looking to dash forward and break through the world. Suits him well. By the end, still didn't know why he, with his northern Shan accent, led his crew through Jin, heading north. And he didn't know if I was really a human trafficker or where these lambs were going. Wolf and Liang. Okay. Chapter 13. I might have messed up. The dashing general showed us the way. We followed it for 6 hours until we reached the main road near Haizhou. After a quick rest and some rations by the roadside, we resumed our journey in the afternoon. Another hour later, we finally arrived at Haizhou. Okay, give me a second, I kind of want to look up the Hungry Lamb walkthrough. Lord Farstar. English one. After killing together. Okay, so there are 2 real conclusions. I'm kind of thinking of going back and going for the other one. Yeah, let's reload. I know. I'm sorry. Let me save this one. Yes. But then I'm gonna go back and agree. Deciding life and death with a match, huh? I'm in. I won't join you. If I win, you let me walk 3.
可以，你要是赢了，想走我也不会强留。
Hey, how do I join the rebel army then? If you win, you're out.
但是，他们咋办？
Boss Lee pointed toward the lambs beside us. They looked at me, their expression filled with worry and fear. I looked away and stayed quiet. Now is not the time to worry about them. Okay, no, that does not sound right. Yes. I guess maybe I'll get another choice later on. Another hour later, we finally arrived at Haizhou, but this time something was off. The city gate was shut tight. The tall walls and shut gates sealed off Haizhou, keeping everyone out. Below the walls sat a beggar in tattered clothes, while guards watched from above, their faces hidden. When we spotted them, they spotted us too.
今日城门不开，你们且回吧。
Why is that? The guard shouted down from the city gate. Why is that? I yelled, asking the guards up on the gate
都
tower.
是上头的命令，我也不知道。
Alright. When's the gate opening?
不知道。
Thought so, but, you know, could you ask? The guard yelled impatiently. I glanced at the beggar below, who was chuckling at us, likely seen this before many
梁
times.
爷要找的人在亥州城。
Didn't we have this conversation before, Mansi? Yes, the person we're looking for is supposed to be in Haizhou. Yeah, saw her once about 2 years back in Haizhou, Huashou. Said she was heading to Haizhou. Haizhou.
那现在要怎么办？
No idea. I stared at the shut city gates, unsure of what to do next. Should we turn back to Shanzhou and figure some things out from there? Or should we take the longer route to Yancheng along the main road? Neither option feels right. Apart from my friend in Haizhou, I couldn't think of anyone else who might buy the lambs from me right now. Besides, going back to Shanzhou would be a hassle, and I don't know the way to Yancheng very well. Damn, this isn't good.
大爷，别等了，车门关2天了，没有人能进去。
For 2 days? Okay, should we be worried what's going on inside?
给点吃的吧，我给你讲讲这门为啥关了，再给大爷指条明路。
The beggar by the gate suddenly spoke up. I glanced his way. Guess there aren't many options right now. He's been sitting there a while, seen plenty come and go, might have some answers. I walked up to the pack horse and grabbed a piece of ration. Let's hear it. I handed the ration to the beggar. He eyed me suspiciously at first, then grinned and took the offering.
谢谢大爷，我这就讲啊。
Yes.
不知道大爷，你知道晋地北边有反贼不？
I know about some rebels, but they're not up north in Jin. Yeah.
北边呀有反贼，朝廷派了很多兵去剿，可就是剿不完。
Uh-huh. So?
听说他们快从北边打过来了，附近几个镇子最近都不安宁，上头怕了。这几天被人汉州关了城门。
So the gates are closed because of rebels. I see. I guess we need to do a Trojan horse invasion here. I pondered the beggar's words quietly. What he said probably holds true. Gates aren't usually shut during the day unless there's enemy forces. This is the southern border of Jin. Those barbarians from the border aren't likely to barge in. That means it's likely the rebels already made their way into Jin, and that's why they closed the gate. I thought they came from Jin, so they didn't have to make their way into Jin. Okay, don't question it, everything's fine. But he probably doesn't know everything. General Li's gang, they're from the Shan region originally, headed north. So ain't rebels from up north heading south, it's rebels from Shan sneaking into Jin, going north. Why were they going north though? Maybe to join forces against the government army? That's a mighty bold move, risking it all like that. Nothing you're saying is surprising. I not only know, but probably know more than you. Is there anything fresher? I asked the beggar coldly.
啊，大爷，你本来就知道吧？那刚才为什么要问守卫啊？
I asked the guard something else. Just wanted to double check. Never mind, let's cut to the chase. What's this solution you're talking about?
好嘞，明路啊，你们可以一直往东南方走，2000步后会看到一座靠河的小山， 绕着山转一圈，山脚下有个客栈。
Are you working with that inn's proprietress to get more customers? You can tell me the truth. I won't snitch.
大爷可以带小花去那个客栈，据说那客栈老板神通广大，知道怎么进海州城。
All right, let's go check it out. I got the info from the bagger, then got the pack horse ready and moved on with the lambs. And then at the foot of the hill with a canny owner? Well, that sounds pretty intriguing. After about half an hour, we got to the inn. Just like the beggar said, it's at the foot of the hill. Before we came, I thought it would be crowded with people who couldn't get into Haizo. But it's way quieter than I thought. The cloudy day, the dark clouds over the top of the inn gave it an eerie feeling, not helped by the inn's doors and windows being closed. I took the lambs into the inn. They stayed close together, walking carefully.
梁爷，这客栈里好暗。
Yeah.
是啊，梁爷，这里看着好像不太对，好像住着鬼。我们不要往下走了吧？
Do we have a choice?
姐姐，贵是啥？
鬼不能说，说了不吉利。总之就不能说，不能见啊。
水姐姐，鬼是啥？鬼就是能走的死人，看得见却摸不着，能杀人夺命。
Well, that backfired quickly.
孙二姐，你咋说了？这不能说的。
The lambs started chattering, getting all riled up. Quiet. I sternly hushed their talk. Don't scare yourself, silly. It's daytime. Where's a ghost gonna come from? I'm here. My blade's here. What's to fear? Oh, that rhymes. I calmed the lambs and moved forward, blade in hand. I've killed many people, seen my share of bodies, but never seen a ghost. No need to worry. Hey, anybody in here? I shouted as I entered the inn. Anybody in here? I raised my voice and shouted again. Cool. Finally, after my second shout, I heard a response. A waiter came down from upstairs. Why do they all look the same? Have a seat. Let's do that, I guess. When the waiter saw us, he warmly welcomed us. He gestured for us to take a seat. See? No ghosts around anywhere.
客官，要什么茶？龙井、虎丘，还有松萝。
Are those supposed to tell me something? Just water,
哎呀，
please.
没事，我给客官倒一些吧。住店的客人都不收茶水钱的。
Thank you. All right, pour some then. By the way, why is it so empty here?
最近是淡季，客人本来就少。
One way of putting it, I guess. You haven't heard? Aizo's locked
知
down.
道啊，当然知道。我们这里啊，就有进不去海州城的客，在楼上住着呢。
Really? I glanced upstairs skeptically. Actually, I didn't seem to hear any guests. What food does the inn have for dinner?
哎呀，客栈没什么余粮，可能要寒碜一点。但是啊，只要大爷有钱，还是能买一些酒肉的。
I'm all for vegetables. What meat? How much?
猪肉3块，5000白银。
Half a tail. Why is it so much? How much for one
1两白银
night?。
哦，大爷带了那么多娃子，要加点钱，换大间要1两5000。
He knows how to make money, huh? 1.5 taels for a night. You're ripping us off like this?
客官不能这么说啊！现在光景不好，价格自然高些。
Right, right. That's too steep for me. We won't stay here.
客官，再考虑下呗。现在天色渐晚，方圆50里都没有地方可以找。
Well, we can camp outside, right outside your door even.
而且，若您真的想走，不住店的客人得把这壶龙井的1两钱给结喽。
This man. Huh, starting to feel like a real scam. I sneered and got up, planning to take the lambs and leave. Seemed like that beggar's directions weren't any good. He was just trying to trick us into this shady place. This place is probably a rip-off joint, taking advantage of the lockdown in Haizo to make a killing. So there probably aren't any guests upstairs, and even if there are, they're likely keeping quiet, just taking the hit. Yep, ghosts are rare, but people's hearts, now that's a different story. They're the real spooky ones. Same in peace times, worse in chaos.
别想走，要么交钱，要么挨打。
Of course. Just as I was about to lead the lambs out the door, a fierce-looking and burly man burst out from the kitchen. I paid him no mind, motioned the lambs, and turned, leading the way towards the inn's
让你
entrance.
走了吗？
I am. He came charging at me with his rolling pin. What a joke. Just yesterday I sparred with a dashing general, plus I had my blade at hand. This guy didn't worry me. No need to look back. I could hear his steps on the creaky floorboards. Heavy thuds followed his strides. 3 steps, 2 steps, 1 step. Here he comes. As the burly man closed in behind me, I spun around fast. With a quick spin and a swift move, I smoothly sidestepped him. He was about to charge at me, but his balance wasn't steady, leaning too far forward. Seizing his arm, I took advantage of his momentum, slamming him into the nearby wooden table. Crack. His head and torso thudded onto the table, nearly breaking it. I gripped his arm tightly and swiftly forced him backward onto the table with a sudden push. At the same time, I whipped out the knife with my left hand, yanked it 3 inches from its sheath, and pressed the blade against the back of his neck. Try anything, you're done. I stared down at the strong-armed thug and said coldly, I'm fine with this inn getting bloody. After all, I'd seen a blood-covered inn just a few days ago.
大爷饶命，饶命啊！
And why should I? The burly man, pinned down by me with a blade at his neck, instantly backed down, quietly pleading for mercy.
大爷，别杀他，有话好好说。
Oh, hey Xerox, I'm so sorry if I missed your text. I'm doing alright. I hope you're doing good as well. You're doing okay, that's good. Glad you had fun with your friends. Good night to you, and enjoy your evening. Doggo's sleeping behind me. I'll tell him that you visited. Mister, don't kill him, let's talk it out. The waiter, scared stiff, didn't dare get in close. He'd completely lost his earlier tough act.
住手！
Is that our friend? Just as I was pondering what to do with them, a clear female voice rang in my ears. Oh, she's beautiful. A lady slowly descended the inn stairs. As she walked, her fingers trailed along the railing. She appeared to be in her 20s, her updo indicating she was married. She wore a light purple gown with a pale blue sash around her waist, giving an elegant and subdued impression. Familiar. With a glance, I immediately recognized her. She was... Liang?
Liang?
Before I could say her name, she beat me to it, calling out mine. She looked at me in surprise, standing there, stunned, all her usual calm gone. Her name was Yuan, meaning kite. Perhaps her parents meant for her to fly high and have a fortuitous life, but she resembled her namesake more in having the perceptiveness of a bird of prey. She was the one I was searching for. Funny how things turned out. I didn't make it to Haizo, but here she is in this rip-off joint. I looked at Kite, recalling what I knew about her. Kite. I met her 5 years back, after the Tiangji explosion. Lots of homeless people returned to their hometowns. I planned to head southeast, but got mixed up and ended up following a group heading southwest. I traveled with them for a while, passing through a county near Anjiang where there was trouble brewing. 2 brothers there said the magistrate had passed up a case covering for a local landlord. The landlord took over the land, but because he was tight with the magistrate awarded the land to him. The 2 brothers got mad, got drunk, and decided to play bandit, aiming to raid the landlord's grain one night. Some refugees heard about it and agreed to join them in the robbery. They talked about justice, but really, they were just after their own gain. They'd been starving for days, didn't care about anything about upholding justice or assisting the poor. They just wanted to snatch some grain, and the brothers stepped up, giving them an excuse. How do I know? Because I was one of them. Had been hungry too long, just wanted to wanted a decent and fulfilling meal. So I tagged along to grab some food too. One night, we followed the brothers. We waited at the landlord's place, climbed his wall with a wooden ladder and snuck inside. Found the grain stash fast, knocked out the servants guarding it, and grabbed a sack each before making a run for it. Should have ended there. Turned out, things didn't go as planned. Those brothers, they nipped the grain but couldn't resist heading to the landlord's room to rough him up. And among our group, some had their eyes on the landlord's women, thinking they could take advantage of them. As I tried to split with the grain, I saw they'd offed the landlord and his wife. They were busy abusing the landlord's concubine and messing up his servants. That's where that bad dream came from, I see. I tried to talk sense, but nobody listened. I didn't want to get involved because I was worried that the official soldiers would come looking, wanted to just split with the grain. Then I heard someone shout from far off, saying they found the landlord's daughter hiding in a room. For some reason, maybe curiosity, maybe something else. I hesitated for a sec before leaving. I ran with 2 others toward the voice, planning to take a look. We stormed into the room and caught a guy trying to force himself on a woman, tearing at her clothes. I hadn't planned on stepping in, but her screams and his disgusting laughter made me sick. I couldn't take it anymore. Instead of just talking, I dropped the grain, grabbed my blade and charged at the guy, cutting him down with one swift stroke. The people who came with me got scared off by my sudden move and bolted out the door, probably to tell the others about my betrayal. Me? To dodge any retaliation from my erstwhile accomplices, I grabbed the woman and made a run for it. Soon enough, the constable showed up and found us. Thinking it was just a servant, they let me off the hook. In our direction, they stormed the landlord's place. Most of the crooks couldn't escape and got caught on the spot. Meanwhile, with the woman's help, I slipped out of town and kept heading west. Kite was the woman, the landlord's daughter. After that, I thought I'd never see her again. She just thanked me for saving me, didn't ask why I was with those crooks raiding her house, and she never brought it up later. 2 years back, I bumped into her again in Chansol. I was looking to sell some stuff at a pawn shop, and turned out she was the boss there. Took her a sec to recognize me, then she invited me to the back for tea. She told me that after the mess 3 years ago, her family was left with just a few servants and their business tanked. The marriage they had lined up fell apart because of it. So she got her kin to set up a new marriage and ended up marrying into a wealthy family in Chansol, only to find out the guy ran a dodgy pawn shop. Her husband kicked the bucket soon after they tied the knot, leaving her running the pawn shop solo. By chance, we met again and finally learned each other's names. I stayed in Chansol for a few months and often dropped by to see her. But our connection didn't stop there. I even came looking for her to help with these lambs. And now, here we are, bumping into each other once more at the inn near Haiso.
梁，上次见面还是2年前吧？
Yes, correct. 2 years ago.
2年前我在陕州的时候，你正好来我那儿销赃。
To fence stuff? Okay. Yes, I did. Kite came down the inn stairs smiling at me.
我当年就提了一嘴，觉得闪地不安全，想去禁地避灾。你是怎么找到这里来的？
Pure luck and coincidence. Maybe you forgot, but back then you clearly said you wanted to go to Haiso, so I came here to find you. Didn't expect that I'd bump into you at a dodgy pawn shop last time and a dodgy inn this time. How come the places you run are always so dodgy?
当今世道也没什么正经生意好做吧？
True, but maybe you should do an effort or make an effort? She giggled, briefly covering her face, but soon her expression turned serious.
梁，我知道的，你这人无利不起早，有事不求人。
Yes?
就直说吧，这次找我所谓何事？怎么就寻到亥州城来了？
Funny story, actually. For them, I told her, glancing at the girls nearby.
好几个女娃子。你说我一直没做正经生意，你不是也做起人牙子的活了？
Gotta say, yes. But... kinda. Well, not exactly. For a moment, I didn't know how to tell Kite about all that had happened. Wasn't right with these lambs listening, and didn't feel right with everyone else in the inn hearing. Kite caught on to what I was getting at.
小张、老牛，你俩带女娃们去后厨弄点吃的，我和梁爷要单独聊一会儿。
Okay, but my voice is pretty much dead, so let me save and end it here. Yes. I think that's a good stopping point for now. We have like 2.5 chapters left, and that should be doable tomorrow, I think. I just don't have the voice for it. Hopefully tomorrow will be better. I actually cooked myself some tea, made myself some tea for this, but it didn't hold out for very long. Anyway, yeah, we're getting close to our destination. I hope that we get another choice to join the rebels, because apparently there are two true endings, and one has a better outcome than the other. and I want the better one. So yeah, I'm hoping that we get another choice where we have to choose between joining the rebels or not, and yeah, that will lead us to the ending that I want. All right. Anyway, before my voice completely gives up, thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Take care and bye bye.